My precious child, listen carefully. God is very angry. And this is not a small correction. This is not a gentle whisper in the wind. This is a divine interruption. You made a serious mistake, and you are about to face the result. It's very important. Don't make the mistake of skipping this. Open this immediately before it's too late. Don't ignore God. You thought no one saw it. You convinced yourself it was small. You told your heart, it doesn't matter. But heaven recorded it. Right now, in the unseen realm, something has shifted. The atmosphere around your life is tense. The silence you feel is not emptiness. It is divine restraint. And if you do not understand what is happening in this moment, you may walk directly into consequences that could have been avoided. I, Archangel Michael, stand as a witness to the justice and mercy of God. And I tell you this not to frighten you, but to awaken you. Because what you are about to face is not random. It is the result of a decision you made when you thought emotions were stronger than obedience. When you chose pride over humility. When you listened to voices that were not from the spirit of truth. A choice created a ripple. And now the wave is returning to shore. But hear this clearly. God's anger is not like human anger. It is holy. It is purposeful. It burns not to destroy you, but to correct you before destruction finds you. Still, correction can feel painful. There was a warning you ignored, a conviction you silenced, a moment when your spirit said, "Stop," but you continued. You justified it. You rationalized it. And now you sense something is not right. That uneasiness in your chest. That strange heaviness in your home. That sudden tension in relationships. These are not coincidences. Heaven is allowing you to feel the weight of what you set in motion. And before fear rises in your heart, listen to me closely. This message reaching you right now is proof that judgment has not been finalized. When God is done with someone, he goes silent. The fact that you are hearing this means mercy is still available. But mercy requires response. Do you remember the exact moment you knew you were stepping outside God's will? It was subtle. No thunder. No lightning. Yet a gentle internal nudge. You ignored it because you were tired. Frustrated. You said just this once. Haven't heard that. And now the result is forming. This is why you must not ignore this message. The spiritual realm operates on doors. Every choice opens one. And the mistake you made opened a door that was never meant to be opened. Not for you. Not in this season. Archangel Michael stands with sword drawn not against you, but against the consequences that are trying to overtake you. But there is a limit to divine intervention when free will insists on rebellion. The anger of God you sense is not rejection. It is the fire of a father who refuses to watch his child walk into disaster without shouting a warning. And this is that warning. There is still time to close the door, but time is thin. In the coming days, you may notice acceleration, conversations intensifying, truth surfacing, hidden things coming into light. Do not panic when exposure happens. Exposure is not humiliation. It is purification. The mistake you made involved trust. Either you betrayed someone's trust or you placed your trust where God told you not to. And that imbalance created spiritual instability. Heaven cannot bless what disobeys divine order. This is why blessings felt delayed. This is why peace felt distant. It is not punishment. It is interruption. God is saying, return before the result becomes irreversible. You are not hearing this by accident. Out of millions of voices online, this message found you. That is not algorithm. That is alignment. Archangel Michael has been assigned to guard your destiny. But guardianship does not override obedience. It partners with it. Right now, you stand at a crossroad. One path says, ignore this. It's dramatic. It's emotional. The other path whispers, what if this is truly God calling me back? Choose carefully, because the result you are about to face will either become your downfall or your turning point. The seriousness of this moment cannot be overstated. The next 24 hours are spiritually sensitive. Words you speak, attitudes you carry, decisions you make, they will matter more than usual. Heaven is watching, not to condemn you, but to see if your heart will soften. God's anger is intense because your calling is high. Correction increases where purpose increases. You are not ordinary. That is why ordinary disobedience carries extraordinary consequences in your life. But here is the hope woven inside this warning. If you humble yourself immediately, if you acknowledge the mistake without excuses, if you close the door, you open the very consequence forming against you can dissolve before it fully manifests. This is urgent. Do not delay repentance. Do not delay correction. Do not delay obedience. Because what feels like a small issue right now has the potential to become a storm. And I, Archangel Michael, speak this with clarity. Heaven prefers your surrender over your suffering. The choice is still yours. Will you ignore God or will you respond before it's too late? Tell me when you are ready to continue. Beloved soul, what you are feeling right now is not imagination. It is conviction pressing gently, but firmly against your heart. After hearing what was revealed, something inside you shifted. You may not fully understand it yet, but your spirit recognized the truth. When God is angry, it is never without reason. And when He warns, it is because He still desires restoration over ruin. You must understand something critical. The mistake you made did not begin with the action itself. It began with a slow drift, a subtle compromise, a small decision that seemed harmless at first. That is how spiritual decline operates. It rarely announces itself loudly. It whispers. It suggests. It convinces you that you are strong enough to handle it alone. But you were never meant to handle life alone. Archangel Michael had been standing at the edge of your situation, watching carefully. Not to accuse you, not to shame you, but to protect the divine assignment on your life. When you stepped outside of God's covering, even slightly, you exposed yourself to unnecessary pressure. And now you feel the weight of that exposure. Have you noticed how certain doors suddenly feel heavy? How conversations feel strained? How opportunities feel delayed? This is not coincidence. This is spiritual resistance forming around disobedience. Not because God hates you, but because God refuses to bless what contradicts His will. The seriousness of this moment is real. If ignored, the result will manifest in ways that feel overwhelming and may affect relationships. It may affect finances. It may affect emotional stability. The area connected to your mistake is the area most vulnerable right now. But listen closely. The fact that you are still hearing this means heaven is giving you a window, a sacred pause before consequence fully unfolds. This is the mercy moment. You must not respond with fear. Fear will push you into hiding, and hiding will only deepen the issue. Instead, respond with humility. Speak to God honestly. Admit where you stepped wrong. Do not justify it. Do not blame someone else. Do not say, but they did this first. Take ownership. Because ownership activates grace. Archangel Michael does not fight battles for those who insist on denial. He fights for those who acknowledge their need for divine help. The sword of protection moves when the heart aligns with truth. Right now, something powerful is happening. Even as you listen, spiritual forces are waiting for your response. Heaven is leaning in. The atmosphere around you is sensitive. This is why it feels intense. And here is something you must hear clearly. Ignoring this message will not silence the consequence. Ignoring it will only remove your opportunity to soften its impact. You were chosen for more than this mistake. Your destiny is not defined by one error, but repeated resistance to correction can reshape a future that was meant to be glorious. Do not let pride steal what purpose prepared. There are some of you who already know exactly what this is about. The Holy Spirit has been speaking to you for weeks. You felt the nudge. You heard the warning in sermons, in conversations, even in random thoughts. And still, you delayed change. Delay is dangerous. This is why this message feels urgent. It is not dramatic. It is precise. It is timed. If this message is reaching your heart right now, take a moment to engage with it. Acknowledge that something greater than coincidence is at work. And if this is resonating deeply with your spirit, let it be known. Comment your response. Share this message with someone who may also be standing at a spiritual crossroads. Subscribe and become part of this growing movement of awakening hearts. When you engage, you are not just supporting a channel. You are amplifying a warning that could save someone from spiritual collapse. And trust this, what is about to be revealed next will make everything clearer. There is a hidden layer to your mistake that you may not have seen yet. A root beneath the surface. A deeper issue that heaven wants to expose gently before it is exposed painfully. Do not disconnect now. What unfolds from here carries answers you did not know you needed. Because the real issue was never just the action. It was the belief behind it. And until that belief is confronted, the cycle will repeat. Archangel Michael is not finished speaking. The correction is still forming. The mercy window is still open. But the clock is moving. Prepare your heart. The next revelation will require courage. Faithful one, the deeper truth is now rising to the surface, and you must be strong enough to face it. The mistake you made was not only an action, it was agreement. Agreement with a lie that quietly challenged what God already spoke over your life. That is why the anger of God feels intense. It is not simply about behavior. It is about covenant. When you aligned your decision with fear, pride, or impatience instead of trust, you temporarily stepped outside divine covering. And heaven takes covenant seriously. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of divine order. When order is broken, there is disturbance in the unseen realm. That disturbance is what you are feeling now. It shows up as restlessness at night. It shows up as unexpected tension. It shows up as a sudden awareness that something must change immediately. You told yourself that you deserved this choice. You told yourself that you were tired of waiting. You told yourself that everyone else was doing the same thing. But your calling is not measured by what everyone else does. Your standard is different because your assignment is different. That is why correction feels heavier in your life than in others. God is not comparing you to the crowd. He is comparing you to the promise He placed inside you. And that promise cannot thrive in compromise. There is something you need to understand right now. The consequence forming is not meant to destroy your future. It is meant to confront your direction. If left uncorrected, the path you were on would have slowly distanced you from intimacy with God. And distance is more dangerous than discipline. Archangel Michael has been permitted to intervene at this exact moment because heaven still sees your potential. You are not abandoned. You are being redirected. But redirection requires surrender. The belief beneath your mistake was this: that you had to take control because God was taking too long. That impatience became the doorway. You stepped in to fix what heaven was still arranging. And in doing so, you interfered with timing. Divine timing is sacred. When you move ahead of it, friction follows. Now you feel the friction. Plans feel unstable. Emotions feel heightened. There may even be signs that something hidden is coming into light. Do not fear exposure. Exposure is mercy in disguise. It prevents private error from becoming public downfall. God's anger is protective. It burns against anything that threatens your destiny. Listen carefully. You are not being punished for imperfection. You are being corrected for misalignment. There is a difference. Punishment pushes away. Correction pulls back into alignment. And alignment must happen quickly. This is why the urgency in this message is strong. The longer you delay repentance, the stronger the consequence becomes. But if you respond now, the intensity can dissolve. Archangel Michael is not standing over you with condemnation. He stands beside you with authority, ready to fight for the version of you that obeys. But you must choose obedience. Speak honestly to God. Close the door you open. End the conversation that should not continue. Step back from the agreement that felt convenient but conflicted with truth. Do it decisively. Do not leave space for temptation to return. This moment is sacred. And here is something profound. The very area where you stumbled will become a testimony if you correct it now. What was meant to weaken you will strengthen you. What was meant to shame you will refine you. But delay will change that outcome. There are spiritual cycles that repeat when lessons are ignored. Heaven does not want you trapped in repetition. That is why this message reached you before the result became irreversible. Do not harden your heart. Softness in this hour will determine stability in your future. You are still chosen, still called, still loved. But love does not remove responsibility. It invites transformation. And transformation begins with humility. If this message is speaking directly to your spirit, if you know without doubt that God is correcting you in love, then seal this moment. Do not let it pass as just another video. Engage with it spiritually. Type "I return to alignment" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Lesson code 318 is now activated over those who respond in obedience. The heavens are watching your response. And as you type that declaration, something shifts. It is not superstition. It is agreement. Agreement with correction. Agreement with surrender. Agreement with divine order. Archangel Michael releases reinforcement over every heart choosing humility right now. Protection increases where repentance is genuine. Do not underestimate the power of immediate obedience. The anger of God is intense, yes, but His mercy is greater. And mercy has found you before the consequence fully formed. Respond while the window is open. Obey while the door of grace stands unlocked. Because what comes next will reveal just how close you were to losing something far more valuable than you realized. As this sacred correction settles into your spirit, hear this clearly. When you sow into this mission, you are not funding a platform. You are lighting torches in dark places. Scripture declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and today God speaks that promise directly over you. When you release a super thanks, join as a member, or send a PayPal seed through the link in the description, You are planting into fertile ground where souls awaken before it is too late. I am calling you now to become a vessel of that awakening. Let your giving be oil that keeps this prophetic fire burning. Let it be manna that feeds those starving for truth. Heaven sees the hand that responds instantly. You not miss this divine moment of obedience. As you give, may doors open that no one can shut. May protection surround your household. May restoration overtake every area where you once stumbled. Step into this act boldly. Sow with faith, and watch God multiply what you release. Chosen vessel, now that you have acknowledged the need for alignment, the atmosphere around you is beginning to shift. Something subtle but powerful is taking place in the unseen realm. The tension that once felt like impending doom is transforming into a refining fire. But do not misunderstand this stage. Just because you chose humility does not mean the process ends instantly. Correction has layers, and heaven is thorough when it restores. You were closer to spiritual loss than you realized. If this message had not intercepted you, the consequence forming would have matured into something far heavier. A relationship might have fractured beyond repair. An opportunity might have slipped away permanently. A door that was meant to remain open for years could have quietly shut. That is how serious this was. Archangel Michael stepped into this moment because your destiny carries weight. When purpose is significant, warfare increases. The enemy does not waste time attacking what holds no value. The intensity around your recent mistake reveals how valuable your calling truly is. But here is the deeper revelation. The real battle was never external. It was internal. Your struggle was not against people. It was not against circumstances. It was against impatience, doubt, and the silent fear that maybe God would not come through in time. That fear pushed you to act prematurely. And premature action always produces unnecessary resistance. Now that you have paused and humbled yourself, heaven is reordering what you disrupted. This reordering may feel uncomfortable. You may need to apologize. You may need to withdraw from something that once excited you. You may need to admit that you were wrong without defending your reasoning. That kind of humility is not weakness. It is strength under divine authority. Do not rush this stage. When God corrects, He does not simply repair the surface. He strengthens the foundation. The foundation of your faith needed reinforcement. You were relying more on visible outcomes than invisible promises. And when visible outcomes delayed, frustration grew. Archangel Michael wants you to understand something clearly. Delay is not denial. Heaven was not ignoring you. Heaven was preparing something beyond what you could see. Your interference almost disrupted a blessing that required precise timing. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up every few days to check if it is growing. That impatience damages the process. In the same way, your need for control began to disturb what God was quietly cultivating. But because you responded to correction, the cultivation continues. There will still be moments where consequences attempt to echo. You may see small reminders of the mistake. Do not interpret those as proof that forgiveness failed. They are simply the natural unraveling of what was set in motion. Stay steady. Do not panic. Remain aligned. The next few days are critical for consistency. One moment of repentance must turn into a lifestyle of obedience. Do not return to the same environment that encouraged compromise. Do not entertain the same thoughts that justified rebellion. Transformation requires separation from old patterns. And here is a truth many ignore. Sometimes God allows you to feel the edge of consequence so you will never desire the mistake again. That memory becomes protection. It becomes wisdom. You are being upgraded spiritually. The weight you felt earlier was not meant to crush you. It was meant to awaken you. And now that you are awake, clarity will increase. You will begin to see where subtle compromises were forming long before this major mistake occurred. Patterns will reveal themselves. And when patterns are exposed, cycles can be broken. Archangel Michael stands guard as you rebuild spiritual discipline. A sword that once guarded you from consequence now guards you from repetition. This is growth. Do not allow shame to linger. Shame is not from God, and it encourages. Shame condemns. You have already stepped into correction. Therefore, condemnation has no authority over you. Lift your head. You are not the failure you feared becoming. You are a vessel being refined. What comes next will require courage again, because alignment sometimes demands bold decisions that others may not understand. You may lose approval from certain people. You may disappoint those who benefited from your compromise. But losing human approval is far better than losing divine favor. Choose divine favor. In the coming hours, watch for subtle confirmations. A peaceful feeling returning. A door reopening. A conversation shifting positively. These are signs that heaven accepted your repentance. However, remain alert. Spiritual maturity is not built in one emotional moment. It is built in daily surrender. You were warned because you are loved. You were corrected because you are called. And you were interrupted because your future is too important to leave to pride. Steady your heart. Strengthen your discipline. Guard your thoughts. Speak with humility. And remember that divine anger was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to redirect you before irreversible loss occurred. You are back under covering. Now walk carefully, because restoration has begun, and what heaven restores, it restores with greater wisdom than before. Anointed one, now that restoration has begun, you must understand that healing does not mean the lesson disappears. In fact, this is the stage where many fall again. The initial emotion fades. The urgency softens. Life begins to feel normal. And slowly, the seriousness of what almost happened becomes distant memory. That is the subtle danger of this hour. Do not let comfort erase conviction. The mistake you made was serious because it revealed a weakness that had been hidden beneath your strengths. Outwardly, you appeared stable, spiritually aware, even disciplined. But deep within, there was an unaddressed hunger, a desire for quicker results, a longing for validation, a quiet frustration that God's timing did not match your expectations. That internal hunger became the opening. Archangel Michael wants you to recognize this clearly. The enemy studies patterns. He does not attack randomly. He waits for emotional fatigue. He watches for moments when you feel overlooked, underappreciated, or delayed. And then he whispers suggestions that seem logical in the moment. Take control. Fix it yourself. You deserve better. Those whispers sound empowering, but they lead away from dependence on God. When you acted on that whisper, heaven did not immediately strike you down. Instead, heaven observed your heart. Because sometimes God allows you to feel the weight of your own decision so you will understand the difference between self-direction and divine direction. You felt that weight. The heaviness. The unrest. The sudden shift in atmosphere. That was not coincidence. It was contrast. Contrast between peace inside God's will and pressure outside of it. Now that you have stepped back into alignment, a deeper strengthening must occur. This strengthening will not be emotional. It will be structural. You must build habits that protect you from future compromise. Guard your thought life more intentionally. The mistake began in imagination long before it reached action. Guard your conversations. Words influence decisions more than you realize. Guard your environment. Proximity shapes perspective. You cannot return to casual spirituality. Your calling demands intentional obedience. There is also something else you must confront honestly. Part of you enjoyed the illusion of control. It felt powerful to make a move without waiting. It felt bold to act independently. A temporary sense of power is seductive, but true authority flows from surrender, not independence. Archangel Michael stands as a warrior under divine command. Even he operates in submission to God's authority. Strength without submission becomes rebellion, but strength under submission becomes unstoppable protection. Learn from that model. You are not being trained for comfort. You are being trained for impact. And impact requires discipline. In the days ahead, you may face a subtle test. An opportunity similar to the one that led to your mistake may appear again. This is not punishment. It is reinforcement training. Your response this time will determine how deeply the lesson has taken root. Do not fear the test. Prepare for it. When it appears, pause. Breathe. Invite God into the decision before acting. If you feel even slight hesitation in your spirit, do not move forward. Peace is the green light. Restlessness is the warning. This is how maturity grows. You were warned because heaven refused to lose you to impatience. But the deeper truth is this: your destiny is larger than you imagine. The enemy pushed hard because your future carries influence. If he can cause you to self-sabotage through small compromises, he weakens your long-term authority. But that plan failed because you responded. Now heaven is reinforcing your foundation. Do not speak lightly about this season. It was serious. You were close to facing a result that would have required years to undo. Instead, you faced correction that only required humility. That is mercy in action. And here is a powerful truth. The very area where you almost fell will become an area of strength for others. You will one day guide someone through the same temptation because you understand it from experience. Pain becomes wisdom when surrendered. Let gratitude rise in you. Not gratitude for the mistake, but gratitude for the warning. Many ignore warnings until consequences teach them the hard way. You were interrupted before irreversible damage occurred. That interruption was love. As restoration continues, remain sensitive. Do not rush back into ambition without prayer. Do not make bold declarations without seeking confirmation. Let this season slow you down enough to rebuild correctly. Archangel Michael is still assigned to guard your path, but guardianship works best when the guarded one walks attentively. Stay attentive. Stay humble. Stay dependent. Because what nearly harmed you has now become the very catalyst that will deepen your spiritual maturity. And the next phase of your journey will require that maturity more than ever before. Prepare yourself. Greater responsibility is approaching. Warrior of destiny, you have stepped into a refining season that will separate who you were from who you are becoming. This is not merely about avoiding another mistake. This is about transformation at the core of your character. The warning you received was urgent because your next level requires greater spiritual stability. You cannot carry what God is preparing for you with unstable foundations. Something significant is ahead. But before elevation comes purification. The mistake you made revealed a fracture in trust. Not only trust in God's timing, but trust in His intentions. Deep down, there was a question you never spoke aloud. Is God really working on my behalf? That quiet doubt created impatience. Impatience created movement. And movement outside of divine instruction created risk. Now that you have repented and realigned, heaven is restoring trust. Trust is not rebuilt in a single emotional moment. It is rebuilt through repeated obedience in small decisions. Each time you choose patience over pressure, trust strengthens. Each time you choose prayer over impulse, your spiritual authority grows. Archangel Michael stands not only as a protector, but as a witness to your growth. The same spiritual realm that observed your mistake is now observing your discipline. There is celebration in heaven when a heart chooses surrender over stubbornness. But you must remain vigilant. There will be distractions sent to test your focus. Old conversations may try to reopen. Old habits may attempt to whisper again. You may even feel a temporary surge of confidence that tempts you to think the battle is fully over. Do not underestimate subtle warfare. Spiritual maturity is quiet. It does not boast. It does not rush. It listens carefully before responding. This next stage is about consistency. You may notice that certain relationships begin to shift naturally. Some people will feel distant. Others will draw closer. This is alignment happening in real time. Not everyone can walk with you into your next assignment. And not everyone is meant to understand why you changed. Do not chase approval. The approval that matters has already spoken through correction and mercy. There is also something you need to recognize clearly. The consequence you feared has lost much of its power because you responded early. What could have been a storm has been reduced to scattered clouds. But clouds still require awareness. Continue to pray. Continue to guard your heart. The enemy's strategy now is not open attack. It is subtle discouragement. He wants you to feel tired of being watchful. He wants you to think vigilance is exhausting. But vigilance is protection. Archangel Michael does not lower his sword simply because the first wave passed. He remains alert because destiny remains valuable. You must do the same. Let this be the moment where you decide that obedience is not seasonal. It is permanent. Not because you are afraid of anger, but because you understand the depth of love behind correction. And listen carefully. There are others who need to hear this warning too. Some are standing where you once stood, unaware that a small compromise could grow into a heavy consequence. If this message stirred something real in you, do not keep it to yourself. Share it. Let it reach someone who may need divine interruption before it is too late. Engage with this message openly. Comment your testimony of alignment. Subscribe and remain connected to this movement of spiritual awakening. When you participate actively, you are helping truth travel further than fear ever could. Hold on to what is forming next, because clarity is about to increase. There is a revelation coming that will explain why this entire season had to happen exactly as it did. You may have thought it was only about correcting a mistake, but it was also preparation for a responsibility you did not see approaching. Do not lose focus now. The discipline you build today will become the strength you rely on tomorrow. In quiet moments, you may feel gratitude rising unexpectedly. That is your spirit recognizing rescue. You were redirected before damage defined you. You were corrected before collapse occurred. That is not coincidence. That is divine strategy. Stay steady in prayer. Speak life over your decisions. Refuse to entertain thoughts that lead back to impatience. If pressure builds again, remember how heavy it felt the last time you stepped outside of alignment. Let that memory guard you. The road ahead is opening slowly. You may not see the full picture yet, but peace is returning. Stability is strengthening, and the anger that once felt intense is now transforming into guidance. You are not walking alone. Archangel Michael remains assigned. Heaven remains attentive. and your destiny remains intact. Remain faithful in this quiet rebuilding, because what is about to unfold will confirm that this warning was not merely about avoiding loss. It was about positioning you for something far greater than you expected. Servant of the Most High, what you are stepping into now is deeper understanding. The storm that almost formed around you was never just about discipline. It was about positioning. You thought this season was about correcting a mistake, but heaven reveals that it was about recalibrating your direction before promotion. There is something greater attached to your obedience than you realize. When God's anger rose, it was not because he delights in confrontation. It was because he saw what you could not see. The path you were beginning to walk would have entangled you in delays far longer than you imagined. What felt like a small detour would have quietly reshaped years of your future. Archangel Michael was dispatched not only to guard you from consequence, but to guard your timeline. Yes, your timeline. Destiny unfolds in appointed moments. Certain doors open only within specific windows. When impatience causes you to step outside divine rhythm, those windows can narrow. But because you responded to correction, heaven preserved your appointment. This is why you must not treat this season lightly. You were spared from a chain reaction. One compromise would have required another to cover it. One misaligned decision would have demanded further justification. And slowly, you would have found yourself defending a version of your life that no longer carried peace. But peace has returned. Not fully yet, not perfectly, but noticeably. And that is the evidence that alignment is taking root. However, something even more profound is happening. Your discernment is sharpening. You are beginning to sense subtle shifts in atmosphere more clearly. Conversations that once felt normal now feel heavy. Opportunities that once looked attractive now feel questionable. This is growth. The warning you received awakens spiritual sensitivity. Archangel Michael fights battles in realms you cannot see. But now your awareness of those realms is increasing. You are learning that every decision carries spiritual weight. Every agreement opens or closes doors. Every attitude either strengthens or weakens your covering. This awareness is not meant to make you fearful. It is meant to make you wise. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes. Wisdom prepares. And you are being prepared. The enemy is frustrated. The plan to trap you in consequence failed. But frustration does not mean surrender. You will attempt subtle tactics. Perhaps distraction. Perhaps fatigue. Perhaps a quiet voice suggesting that you are overthinking everything now. Do not lower your guard. Spiritual growth always feels intense in the beginning. That intensity will eventually stabilize into rhythm. But do not rush to comfort. Remain attentive while this new sensitivity solidifies. You may notice that prayer feels deeper lately. Words feel more sincere. Silence feels heavier but more meaningful. That is because your heart has been softened by correction. Correction, when embraced, produces intimacy. You are closer to God now than before the mistake. Think about that. The very error that almost cost you something significant has instead drawn you into greater awareness. That is redemption in motion. But redemption requires responsibility. Do not boast about surviving this. Do not become casual about it. Carry the lesson with reverence. Speak less impulsively. Decide less hastily. Seek confirmation more consistently. The road ahead will test this maturity. Soon, an opportunity will arise that looks beneficial but requires compromise in subtle form. It will not be obvious wrongdoing. It will be something that seems harmless. This will be your proving ground. Pause when it appears. Invite God into it immediately. If peace does not settle quickly, step back. Archangel Michael stands ready, but intervention flows through obedience. You have learned that now. And here is something powerful. Because you chose humility earlier, your authority in prayer has increased. When you pray now, there is greater clarity. When you declare protection over your home, there is stronger confidence. When you resist temptation, resistance weakens faster. This is growth you earn through surrender. Let gratitude anger you. Not fear of anger, but appreciation for mercy. You were warned before it was too late. You were corrected before it was irreversible. You were redirected before it became destruction. That sequence reveals love. As this new phase continues, watch for subtle confirmations that your timeline is back on course. A delayed response may suddenly arrive. A stalled situation may begin moving again. A door that felt closed may open without struggle. These are signs of divine recalibration. Remain steady. Remain humble. Remain watchful. Because what is ahead is not small. You are being entrusted with more influence, more responsibility, and more spiritual authority. And heaven needed to ensure you could carry it without self-sabotage. The anger of God has transformed into instruction. The warning has become wisdom, and the mistake has become maturity. Now prepare your heart. The next revelation will uncover why your calling required such a sharp correction at this exact moment in your life. Child of divine purpose, now you are ready to understand why the correction had to be so sharp, so urgent, and so undeniable. What you experienced was not just about preventing loss. It was about protecting influence. There are eyes watching your life that you may not even be aware of. People observe how you respond to pressure. They watch how you handle delay. They study your reactions when things do not go your way. Your life carries silent leadership. The mistake you made would not have affected you alone. It would have quietly shaped the perception of those who look to you for strength. And heaven will not allow hidden compromise to contaminate visible calling. Archangel Michael intervened because your influence is expanding. You may not feel famous. You may not stand on public platforms. But influence is not measured by popularity. It is measured by impact. And your obedience impacts more lives than you realize. The spiritual realm understands the ripple effect of your decisions. If you had continued down that path, your words would have slowly lost authority. Your prayers would have felt weaker. Your confidence would have been replaced with subtle insecurity. Not because God abandoned you, but because compromise dilutes conviction. Conviction gives authority its fire. Now, because you turned back, your authority is being restored with greater depth. You are not the same person who first heard the warning. You are stronger, more aware, more careful. But let this truth settle deeply in you. Increased influence demands increased integrity. You cannot afford casual disobedience in the next season. The margin for error narrows when calling expands. This is not meant to pressure you. It is meant to elevate your awareness. There is a mantle forming over your life. Responsibility is increasing. Opportunities will soon present themselves that require discernment. And this time, the decisions you make will echo further. This is why the anger of God was intense. It was protective anger. Protective of your destiny. Protective of those connected to you. Protective of a future that carries weight. Archangel Michael does not guard small assignments with such urgency. The level of intervention you experienced reveals the level of calling over you. Do you understand what that means? It means you are not ordinary. It means your obedience matters in ways you cannot fully see yet. It means heaven refuses to let you drift unnoticed. And now comes the refining of motives. Not just actions. Motives. Why do you desire what you desire? Why do you pursue certain opportunities? Why does recognition matter to you? These are not accusations. They are invitations to purity. God is aligning not only your behavior but your heart posture. The next stage of growth will require internal honesty. If ambition rises, examine it. If insecurity whispers, confront it. If pride tries to disguise itself as confidence, humble it. Because influence without purity eventually collapses. You were corrected before collapse. That is mercy beyond measure. There will soon be a moment where you realize how close you came to altering your path permanently. That realization may bring tears. Let them fall. Gratitude often expresses itself through emotion. You were protected from yourself. Archangel Michael stood guard while you were unaware of the depth of danger. And now that you see more clearly, your gratitude should fuel deeper obedience. Do not forget this season. Mark it in your spirit, because it will become a reference point in future battles. When temptation whispers again, you will remember how heavy misalignment felt. When impatience tries to push you forward, you will remember how peace returned only after surrender. This is maturity forming. And now, before moving further, seal this moment of elevation. Let heaven witness your commitment publicly. Type "I walk in integrity" in the comments if this message has strengthened your spirit. Blessing code 642 is being released over every life, choosing purity over pressure. As you declare that alignment, something spiritual activates. Integrity invites divine reinforcement, and reinforcement invites favor that cannot be manipulated. And now hear this with clarity. If this message has been a lifeline for you, if it awakened you before irreversible consequence, then you are not just a listener. You are part of a movement that rescues others before it is too late. When you release a super thanks, step into membership, or so through the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a channel. You are becoming a co-laborer in divine intervention. Scripture declares that when you give, it will be given back to you, pressed down and overflowing. Today that promise speaks directly to you. Your seed becomes oil that keeps this prophetic warning flowing to souls standing at dangerous crossroads. I am inviting you now to respond as an act of obedience, not obligation. Let your giving be a prophetic declaration that you value correction, truth, and destiny. As you sow, may doors open that impatience once tried to force. May protection rest heavily over your household. May your obedience multiply into visible favor. Do not delay this sacred opportunity. Act now, so boldly, and watch heaven respond with increase. Remain steady, because what unfolds next will confirm that your influence is about to expand beyond what you imagine. Faithful guardian of your calling, you are entering a phase where clarity will replace confusion. The fog that once surrounded your decisions is lifting, and you are beginning to see why everything had to unfold the way it did. What felt like divine anger was actually divine alignment in motion. It interrupted a future you were not meant to live and restored you to the path designed for your growth. There is a weight on your life, but it is not a burden. It is responsibility. Responsibility to carry wisdom. Responsibility to discern timing. Responsibility to protect what heaven entrusts to you. The mistake you made revealed that you were ready for more, but not yet refined enough to carry it without guidance. That is not condemnation. That is preparation. God does not increase territory without increasing character. And character is formed in moments where correction is accepted instead of resisted. Archangel Michael has remained close through this entire process, not as a symbol of fear, but as a reminder of spiritual authority. Authority is not loud. It is disciplined. It does not rush. It does not panic. It moves when instructed and stands still when commanded. You are learning at rhythm now. Something inside you has slowed down. Where you once reacted quickly, you now pause. Where you once justified your feelings, you now examine them. That shift is not weakness. It is strength under control. Soon, you will notice opportunities returning in areas that felt unstable. Conversations that once felt tense will soften. Doors that appeared closed will quietly reopen. This is not coincidence. This is confirmation that your alignment restored access. But listen carefully. Restoration does not mean recklessness can return. The door reopening is not permission to behave casually. It is evidence that you have matured enough to handle what you almost mishandled before. You were spared from a version of yourself that would have regretted haste. That version is gone now. The path ahead will test your growth in subtle ways. Someone may challenge your patience again. A situation may tempt you to control outcomes prematurely. When it happens, remember how heavy it felt to walk outside divine timing. Let that memory guide you back to stillness. Archangel Michael remains vigilant, but you are no longer unaware. You have learned to sense shifts in atmosphere. That awareness is a gift. Feed it with respect. You may also feel a deeper hunger for prayer developing. Not out of fear, but out of desire for connection. That hunger is evidence that your trust is rebuilding. When trust strengthens, intimacy follows. Intimacy with God is your greatest protection. Do not trade it for speed. In the coming days, there will be a moment of quiet confirmation. It may come through a simple conversation, an unexpected message, or a sudden clarity in your spirit. When it comes, you will know. It will feel like reassurance, like heaven whispering, "You chose wisely." Receive that reassurance fully. You have moved from warning to wisdom. But there is something even more profound unfolding. Because you responded to correction, your spiritual authority has increased. Authority is given to those who can be trusted with it. And trust is proven through obedience under pressure. You passed a critical test. Not because you were perfect, but because you were humble. That humility will open doors you do not yet see. Influence will grow. Opportunities will multiply. And this time, you will approach them with caution instead of impulse. Remember this always. The anger you felt was not rejection. It was protection. Protection of your name. Protection of your future. Protection of your unseen impact. Archangel Michael does not fight meaningless battles. The intensity of intervention revealed the magnitude of what is ahead for you. Walk with that awareness. Speak with measured words. Choose with deliberate thought. The storm that nearly formed has dissipated, but the lesson it brought remains permanent. Let it shape your habits. Let it refine your instincts. Let it anchor your decisions in patience. There will come a day when you guide someone else through a similar moment of correction, and you will speak with authority because you lived through it. You will warn them with compassion because you remember how it felt. This is how destiny multiplies. Your mistake became your training ground. Your warning became your wisdom. Your correction became your promotion. Now steady your spirit, because the next revelation will unveil how your obedience in the season is about to position you for an unexpected expansion that you once prayed for but were not ready to receive. Prepare yourself. Increase is closer than you think. Chosen instrument of divine purpose, what is unfolding now is the beginning of expansion. You have walked through warning, correction, humility, and restoration. And because you did not harden your heart when God confronted you, something powerful is about to shift in your favor. Increase is approaching. But this increase is not random blessing. It is entrusted responsibility. The season ahead will stretch you in ways that require everything you just learned. Had you carried impatience into this new phase, you would have mishandled what is coming. That is why the anger of God had to interrupt you when it did. Timing was everything. Archangel Michael has not only guarded you from consequence, he has guarded the gate of your next assignment. And that gate is beginning to open slowly. You may already sense it. A subtle stirring. A new idea forming. A connection developing. A door cracking open where there was once silence. Do not rush through it. Move with the discipline you gain. The expansion ahead will test whether you truly trust God's pace. Opportunities may appear suddenly, almost as if heaven is compensating for lost time. But do not mistake speed for permission to abandon discernment. The lesson you learn must remain active. There will be voices congratulating you. There will be moments where things feel easier than before. But ease does not replace obedience. Ease is the fruit of obedience. Remember that. The mistake you made earlier was rooted in the desire to accelerate what heaven was still shaping. Now that heaven is accelerating certain things on its own, you must not revert to old instincts. Pause before major decisions. Pray before responding. Consult God before committing. Archangel Michael stands ready, but expansion attracts attention. When favor increases, so does scrutiny. Not all scrutiny is negative, but it requires maturity to navigate. People will watch how you handle growth. They will observe whether humility remains or pride quietly returns. Guard your heart carefully. There is also something else happening beneath the surface. The fear that once pushed you into control is dissolving. In its place, confidence rooted in surrender is forming. That confidence is stable. It does not panic. It does not manipulate. It waits for clarity before acting. That is the confidence heaven can trust. In the coming days, you may be presented with a choice that looks remarkably similar to your earlier mistake. But this time, the context will be different. It will not be a trap. It will be a test of maturity. The decision itself may not be wrong, but your posture will determine its outcome. If you move with peace, it will prosper. If you move with pressure, it will strain. The difference lies in your spirit. Do not ignore the inner signal you have learned to recognize. That subtle unrest is protective. That calm assurance is instructive. And hear this clearly. You are not expanding alone. Heaven is invested in your progress. Archangel Michael remains assigned to your destiny because what you are stepping into carries influence beyond your current awareness. This is why your discipline now matters more than ever. If this message has guided you through this transformation, let your voice be heard. Share this revelation with someone who may be standing at the edge of a mistake. Comment your testimony of how correction strengthened you. Subscribe and remain connected so you continue receiving guidance as your influence grows. When you engage, you are not just participating online. You are reinforcing a movement of spiritual maturity that rescues others before they fall. And trust this, what is about to be revealed next will tie everything together in a way you did not expect. You will be grateful you stayed attentive. The anger that once felt intense has now become direction. The correction that felt sharp has now become preparation. The warning that felt urgent has now become wisdom. And the expansion that is beginning will confirm that obedience always leads to increase. But increase must be stewarded. Stay grounded. Stay prayerful. Stay humble. because the next revelation will uncover the full picture of why this entire season unfolded with such urgency, and how your obedience has positioned you for a breakthrough that once seemed impossible. You are standing at the edge of fulfillment. Do not lose the posture that brought you here. Heaven is opening what impatience almost closed. Walk forward carefully. Your next step matters. Beloved carrier of purpose, you are now standing in the space where warning has turned into wisdom, and wisdom is about to produce visible fruit. What once felt like a threat of consequence has transformed into a gateway of promotion. But before the full breakthrough manifests, you must see the complete picture of why this season unfolded with such intensity. The mistake you made was not random. It surfaced at the exact moment when your life was about to shift upward. And whenever elevation is near, hidden weaknesses are exposed, not to shame you but to strengthen you. God does not promote what has not been purified. If you had entered this new season carrying impatience, subtle pride, or the need to control outcomes, the expansion would have magnified those flaws. What was small internally would have become visible externally, and public correction is far more painful than private warning. You were corrected privately. That alone is mercy. Archangel Michael stood guard while heaven addressed your foundation. The intensity you felt was proportional to the level of calling resting over your life. Small assignments do not require fierce intervention. But your assignment is not small. You are entering a cycle of answered prayers. Things you asked for months ago are aligning. Conversations you hoped for are forming. Doors you knocked on are unlocking quietly. You may even notice sudden acceleration in areas that once felt stagnant. This is not coincidence. It is confirmation that alignment restored access. But listen carefully. Breakthrough carries responsibility. The same discipline that protected you in correction must now protect you in increase. Many remain humble when they are being warned, but lose that humility when they are being blessed. Do not make that mistake. Remember how quickly misalignment created pressure. Let that memory keep you grounded as favor begins to flow. There is a specific area of your life where expansion will be most visible. It may involve leadership, influence, creativity, or provision. When it begins to grow, you will feel both excitement and weight. Excitement because prayer is being answered. Weight because stewardship is required. Archangel Michael remains a sign not because danger is imminent, but because importance is increasing. The greater the influence, the greater the need for vigilance. You will soon face a defining moment. It will not feel dramatic. It will feel ordinary. But your response will reveal how deeply transformation has settled in you. Someone may question your decision. Someone may challenge your integrity. In the past, you might have reacted defensively. Now you will respond calmly. That calmness will be evidence of growth. And here is something profound. The very area where you once felt weak will become the area where you display the most wisdom. What once tempted you will no longer hold the same power. What once pressured you will no longer intimidate you. This is spiritual authority maturing. The anger of God that once felt frightening now reveals itself as protective love. He was not trying to remove you. He was trying to refine you. And refinement always precedes reward. Stay watchful, not fearful. Stay grateful, not prideful. Stay dependent, not independent. The expansion coming will test whether you rely on the discipline you built or drift back into old instincts. Each decision will matter. Each agreement will carry weight. But this time, you are ready. You have learned to pause. You have learned to pray. You have learned to value peace over pressure. Archangel Michael does not need to shout warnings now. A gentle nudge will be enough because your sensitivity has increased. That is maturity. As the days unfold, expect confirmation that this season was divinely orchestrated. You may look back and realize that if your mistake had not been exposed, you would have entered this new level unprepared. Gratitude will replace embarrassment. And one day, you will tell this story not with shame, but with reverence. You will say, "I was corrected before it was too late," and that testimony will strengthen someone else. Your obedience has shifted your trajectory. Your humility has preserved your destiny. Your surrender has unlocked your promotion. Now steady yourself, because what comes next will reveal the full manifestation of what heaven protected you for. The warning was urgent because the breakthrough is significant, and you are about to see it unfold. Prepare your heart for completion. My beloved, this is the moment where everything comes together. What began as a sharp warning has become a divine unveiling. You were told that God was angry. You were told that you made a serious mistake. You were told that the result was forming. And all of it was true. But what you did not see at the beginning was that the anger was protection, the mistake was exposure, and the result was not destruction, it was redirection. Now you stand at the other side of correction. Look at what did not happen. The door that could have closed permanently is still open. The relationship that could have shattered beyond repair is stabilizing. The opportunity that could have slipped away is reappearing with greater clarity. This is not luck. This is mercy. Archangel Michael stood guard over a future you almost forfeited. Not because you were perfect, but because you were willing to humble yourself when it mattered most. A humility rewrote the outcome. What was about to become a painful consequence became a powerful transformation. You were not rejected. You were refined. And now, the breakthrough you sensed earlier is no longer distant. It is manifesting. The expansion is not chaotic. It is ordered. It is steady. It carries peace instead of pressure. That is how you know it is from God. The lesson you learned about timing will protect you in seasons of increase. The discipline you built in quiet repentance will sustain you in visible influence. The awareness you gain through correction will sharpen your discernment and leadership. You are not the same person who first heard the warning. You are wiser, stronger, more anchored. The anger of God has fully transformed into favor. Not cheap favor, not careless favor, but earned favor that flows through obedience. Heaven now trusts you with what it once had to shield from you. And here is the final revelation. The seriousness of this entire season was not only about saving you from loss. It was about preparing you to carry greater weight without collapsing. What is coming next in your life will require maturity that you did not possess before this correction. Now you possess it. Archangel Michael's assignment over you has shifted from intervention to reinforcement. He is no longer guarding you from imminent consequence. He is guarding the expansion that obedience unlocked. That is promotion. But never forget this. The same humility that rescued you must remain with you. Do not grow casual in blessing. Do not grow independent in favor. Stay close to prayer. Stay sensitive to conviction. Stay aligned with peace. Because the very thing that almost cost you your destiny has now become the testimony that secures it. Take a moment and reflect on how close this was. Reflect on how serious the mistake felt. Reflect on how heavy the warning sounded. And then look at where you are now, standing in restoration, clarity, and growth. That is divine love in action. Seal this transformation publicly. Type "I am restored" and ready in the comments if you receive this confirmation. Blessing code 909 is now activated over every life that walked through correction into promotion. Let heaven record your declaration. And now hear this with spiritual clarity. This message did not reach you by accident, and it will reach others who are standing at the edge of irreversible decisions. When you sow into this mission through Super Thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, you are not giving to a channel. You are placing seed into rescued destinies. The Lord declares, as long as the earth remains, seed time and harvest shall not cease, and today that word is alive over you. When you release your seed, you are watering the soil where warnings turn into wisdom and anger turns into mercy. I am inviting you into this divine partnership now. Let your giving be a prophetic act that says you believe in restoration. Let it be oil that keeps this message burning for the next soul who needs it urgently. As you sow, may restoration multiply in your own house. May protection surround your family. May favor accelerate without sorrow. Do not hesitate in this holy moment. Act in faith. Sow with expectation. And watch God respond with overflow. You were warned before it was too late. You were corrected before collapse. You were restored before loss. And now you are ready. Walk forward. Your destiny is intact.